A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
You got f***ing grow, mother. Are you kidding me?
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello and welcome aboard another episode of the Gallant Says podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. We do this thing 5-ish times a week. Really depends on the mood that I'm in, but you can also interact with this show live at twitch.tv/GallantSays or youtube.com/Paul Gallant. It is Monday, November 14th of 2022. And man, this football season is bringing me down. Over the course of the last month plus, I have focused a lot of my attention on the Houston Astros, their playoff run, their World Series championship. And now that it's done, we come back to the real world. And I just remember how life was for me when I was working at the Texans flagship back in the day, Sports Radio 610. Our attention was almost entirely focused on the Texans, including during baseball season, with a really, really good baseball team in town in the Astros, at least once 2015 happened. This team is hard to watch, mainly because I find myself feeling a lot like Bill Murray probably did in Groundhog Day, the movie where he wakes up, same day happens. He hears, "I've got you, babe," to wake up every single morning. And at a certain point in the movie, he goes crazy and decides to himself, yeah, I'm just going to off myself. I haven't gotten quite that far watching these football games, but while watching this game at my apartment/condo, I'm looking dead ahead at the Texans-Giants game and kind of zoning out. It's just hard to even feel alive watching that game. I love football, I do, and there are some players on this Texans team right now that are somewhat worth getting excited about. I know Dameon Pierce had that big fumble down the stretch, but he's a good running back. He's a steal of a find. There's Christian Harris, who's looked at least like somebody who has pop at linebacker, finally playing the last couple of weeks. Jalen Petrie at times this year has looked pretty good. Kenyon Green's been good as a run blocker. Jalen Petrie started off the year well. Derek Stingley is there. But as these games go on, I just find myself looking ahead and I can't even focus. I'm just feeling like everything's repetitive. I feel like there's a bad sitcom on in front of me without a laugh track, predictable, and the same things seem to happen every single week. Davis Mills throws a critical interception. Dameon Pierce fumbles in a bad spot. Penalties that negate big plays. The worst part of all has been continuously seeing Davis Mills on the sideline clapping up a storm when he does it. So, I'm getting burnt out. And it's not just the Texans. Saturday night, after I got back from the Renaissance Festival, I decided, hey, I'm gonna watch some of the other big games that are going on across the sports world. You know, I mean, we got a big game in college football for the Texas Longhorns. They were playing TCU. TCU's undefeated. They were 7.5-point favorites against TCU, despite TCU actually making it in to the first iteration of the college football playoff. And while I didn't watch the whole game, I'm glad I didn't. Because, I mean, TCU was up 17-3 early in the fourth quarter, and outside of a busted snap that the Horns picked up in return for a touchdown when TCU was on offense and driving. Like, there really wasn't much to see there. Texas A&M football, I mean, they lost 13-10 to Auburn, a team that has an interim coach in Cadillac Williams, who you might remember from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the day, running the show. And they still are scoring regularly 10 points, 13 points, whatever it is. And then afterwards, Jimbo Fisher's like, well, you know, if the offense just gets together and if we can make some plays and execute and do it a little bit better, I mean, this is a team that I feel like the offense is going to work. And he speaks so quickly, but even this time around, if you watch the post-game press conference, he seemed like a shell of himself. So the college football teams, at least the two biggest ones in town, aren't doing well. Houston was thought to be a team that could, at the very least, push for a 10-win season, but they don't know how to play defense. They play in shootouts every single week. They did win a shootout against Temple, but not a lot of pizzazz behind a UH team that isn't undefeated, just to be perfectly honest. Baylor isn't doing anything after a great year last year. They got their asses kicked by Kansas State, 31-3. I mean, really, of all the schools nearby, it's TCU who is somehow in the college football playoff. And does anyone actually have faith in TCU, should they make it to the college football playoff, that they won't get absolutely smoked by a Georgia or a Tennessee or an Ohio State or whoever else might make it? LSU, Alabama. Who wouldn't kill TCU? The Dallas Cowboys, 28-14 lead in the fourth quarter, where they've been 195-0 with a fourth quarter lead, up 2 touchdowns in their history, and they blow a 2-touchdown lead to the Packers, who are a mess right now. An absolute mess. It is bad. I'm just thinking about the day-to-day, talking about this for 2 hours on the radio as we get further and further away from the end of the Astros season. What are you watching for? What even excites you? There ain't much. It sucks. And it's a shame because there is some good football going on. That game between the Buffalo Bills and Minnesota Vikings, where the Vikings won 33-30 in overtime to improve to 8-1, second best record in the NFL, the only team that they've lost to this season, Philadelphia. How they're doing it, kind of hard to say. But that game was awesome. I mean, just think about the end. I'm glad that it was on, and I'm glad that Fox didn't go away from the broadcast at least until 3:30, which, even if you're a Cowboys fan, you wanted to see the end of that game on Fox. I don't like how they do this jump around coverage on NFL Red Zone, but Minnesota was down 27-10 late in the third quarter. And I mean, it's a Kirk Cousins-led team. Kirk Cousins is going to help this team get back in the game. No one believed it. Whenever the lights get big for Kirk Cousins and this would qualify, it was kind of dark in Buffalo. And on top of that, this is perhaps the most hyped team in the NFL this year and has been all season long. You think to yourself, there's zero chance that the Vikings can get back in this game. But the Vikings did. Right after Buffalo took that 27-17 lead, Dalvin Cook had an 81-yard touchdown run. And that's where the game got fucking crazy. It's one of the best quarters of football I can remember in a really long time. Because Buffalo followed that up with a long drive, 6 minutes, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, they're going to salt it away. They get to the Minnesota 7, and they decide, you know what, instead of kicking a field goal, we're going to go for the first down, up 10 points. Josh Allen throws an interception to Patrick Peterson. Minnesota, on the very next drive, marches down the field, 13 plays, 66 yards, 6 minutes, score a touchdown with less than 5 to go. They missed the extra point. Not great. 27-23, though. Buffalo's got this. It's Kirk Cousins. He's going to have to do this again. Well, Minnesota forces a 3-and-out that got helped by a false start. And the next thing you know, the Vikings have the ball with 3:26 to play. And things got fucking bonkers. First play, outside of the 2-minute warning, Minnesota's at their own 27. Kirk Cousins had been sacked on 2 of the previous 3 downs. It's 4th and 18. And Kirk Cousins said, fuck it. Throws it deep to Justin Jefferson, who maybe had the best catch I've ever seen. Given the stakes, given the fact that it was in traffic, given the fact that he did it with one hand, given the fact that somehow he didn't need to bring that one hand back into his body. Incredible. Thanks, Target. I appreciate the autoplay ad. Jesus Christ. This is what happens when you have some of these tabs open in the background in your computer. Anyway, back to this play. Minnesota marches all the way down to the Buffalo 1-yard line. You thought it was a touchdown that potentially would make this thing go the way of the Vikings. You think that they might have won the game. Kirk Cousins, who was just throwing it to Justin Jefferson left and right on this drive, saying, fuck it. Everyone hates Kirk Cousins when he's conservative. I'm just going to laser it into Jefferson. He throws a touchdown pass over the middle to Jefferson. He catches it. And you think, okay, the Vikings took the lead. But then you find out that he actually was down at the 1-yard line. Buffalo calls a timeout. It's 4th and goal at the 1. Cousins throws an incomplete pass to Dalvin Cook, but there's a penalty on for an offsides, so they move the ball even closer to the goal line. 4th and goal again at Buffalo's 1. Kirk Cousins tries to do the QB sneak for a touchdown. No gain, stopped. Can't say any of those words right. He gets stuffed, and you think, okay, the Bills just won. They review it. You see that there's no real clear angle that says Cousins was in, but I don't think he was in. So Buffalo gets the ball at their own 1-yard line. They just have to fall forward. That's it. Minnesota was out of timeouts. And they fumbled the fucking ball in the end zone. Eric Hendricks recovers it. And you think to yourself, oh my God, Minnesota's going to win this one. But there's still 41 seconds to go. And the Bills march down the field, get a field goal, goes to overtime. I mean, it was a crazy fucking game. A game that didn't take place in Houston, of course. Overtime opens up. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings move all the way down into field goal range. They kick the go-ahead field goal with 3:42 to play. Josh Allen and the Bills are marching down the field, but then Josh Allen threw an awful interception with 1:12, intercepted by Patrick Peterson. He made 3, honestly, critical mistakes in this game, and that's why Buffalo isn't 7-2. That's why Buffalo is now in 3rd place in the AFC East, behind the Jets and behind the Dolphins. And it's why the Minnesota Vikings and Kirk Cousins are 8-1. And now I imagine that over the course of this morning's Speak for Your Pizza television shows, that a lot of people have been saying, yeah, Kirk Cousins might be one of those dudes. He might be him, as others would say. And I don't want people to go there yet. I doubt many people have. This was a great win for Minnesota. A finally validating victory that did require a whole lot of luck for them to actually get it done, whether it was that Justin Jefferson one-handed catch or it was that fumble in the end zone. Either way, I don't want anyone to change their opinion on Kirk Cousins based off of this one. E315 says, what's up in the Twitch chat? You can join the Twitch chat, twitch.tv/Gallant Says, if you want to watch the Gallant Says podcast in action. YouTube.com/Paul Gallant as well. Kirk Cousins, the only reason that the Vikings won that game is because Cousins just said, fuck it, and kept on throwing it to his best player. Does that mean he's a better quarterback now? And it sort of led into just me thinking big picture about all the people that will look at quarterbacks and say, you got to be patient with them. Because eventually over time, they'll be able to get rid of all of the big problems that they've had over the course of their career. I've seen some people still, very few, but some people still make this argument with one Davis Mills. I sure as hell never will make that argument with Davis Mills. We've been out on that guy since week 2. But there are some guys that you will think to yourself, hey, they've gotten better. They finally put it behind them. I would not make that case with Kirk Cousins. I would not make that case with Geno Smith. I would not make that case that it could ever happen with Davis Mills. Patience does not all of a sudden mean that big-time problems for a specific quarterback are going to go away altogether. Because, hell, I would even point at Josh Allen for this game. Josh Allen's 2 interceptions were bad. The fumble was bad. These are the kind of careless mistakes that you saw him make at Wyoming and early on with the Buffalo Bills. Some guys actually never do shake their absolute worst habits. You're feeling better about Kirk Cousins because he won a big primetime game. If you're looking at the wins and the losses, I suppose you can sucker yourself into believing that. But this is one of those games where it was just Kirk Cousins saying, please bail me out, Justin Jefferson, over and over and over again. That ain't no way to win. Not in this league. Nope. So don't get it twisted. Don't change your mind about who Cousins is and honestly who Allen is. I like Allen a lot as a player. I think in certain situations he seems borderline unstoppable. I also think he's remarkably careless, and that's something that he's going to have to get better at if the Buffalo Bills actually want to do anything come playoff time. How many people care about celebrity dating? I kind of do. And I wanted to touch on a story that has to do with my Lord and Savior, Tom Brady. Saw an article from the New York Post. Gisele Bündchen enjoys Costa Rica dinner date with new man Joaquim Valente. Who is this man? Well, it's her jiu-jitsu instructor. I guess this post on Instagram is from February 23rd of this year. And if you watch it, you'll see that maybe there's a little physical chemistry between the two.
Ah, mulher é tudo igual. Você tem uma mulher igual desse jeito? Você tem? Então, tem uma mulher igual desse jeito?
Watching it on twitch.tv/Gallant Says, you will see a montage of Gisele Bündchen and what's his face again? Not Tom Brady. Joaquim Valente. Makes you wonder if they've been doing a little bit more. That's at least what the speculators will say. Tom Brady focused on football, focused on family. I thought Gisele Bündchen wanted to focus on, I don't know, saving the rainforest. She's out dating already. It's funny how that works. I remember when my dad left my mom, in a very dickish comment in retrospect, telling my mom, I need you to wait a year until you date again. Like, very selfish thought process by me. And to her credit, she held up to that end. My dad did not quite do that because my dad got engaged like a year later. It was a big point of contention in my family for a variety of different reasons. Whatever the case. Should Gisele be doing this already? Publicly seen in Costa Rica with a new man and the kids too? Is he about to be their stepdad? Was there anything else going on behind the scenes? Was it not just the fall of cryptocurrency that potentially split them up? E315 says, would you take Pete Davidson's leftovers? Well, that brings us to another story from the dating world. Emily Ratajkowski and Pete Davidson are reportedly dating. Another day, another celebrity couple we absolutely did not see coming. Let's pause for a moment. You didn't see this coming? I mean, Pete Davidson's been with Kim Kardashian. He has been with Kate Beckinsale, Ariana Grande, Larry David's daughter. I mean, whatever it is that he's got going on, he's got it going on. Continues this article. Yep, rumor has it that Pete Davidson and Emily Ratajkowski, who has recently been linked to Brad Pitt, are dating after the pair were seen getting cozy on a night out in New York. Spotted, wrote Instagram gossip account Dumois, followed by a screenshot from a follower. Can't believe I'm saying this. Anon, please. M. Rata and Pete Davidson on a date in Brooklyn together, holding hands and all. In a second screenshot, a message said his hands were all over her and they're clearly hooking up. Ratajkowski had this to say about him a while back when everyone was coming after Pete Davidson. He's a professional. First of all, you should know that about Pete. Pete's got the height. Obviously, women find him very attractive. I feel like only other men feel that he isn't attractive. Guys are like, wow, what's that guy got? And I'm like, I mean, he seems super charming. He's vulnerable. I don't know how you would know those two things without knowing him, whatever. He's lovely. His fingernail polish is awesome. He looks good. Further, he has a good relationship with his mom. She concluded, we love it. It's hard to find them. Okay. Pete Davidson, height. He is 6'3". And this brings me to my theory about women when it comes to dating. I know that a lot of guys have a hard time accepting that Pete Davidson is like attractive. I honestly don't know. Like, if I did not know he was 6'3", I would probably think to myself, yeah, you know what? Not that attractive. But I've seen some pictures where the guy looks okay. He's got weird looking eyes. Seems like he's funny. But being 6'3" is huge. I have long thought that, and I based this off of this person I used to see at the gym. This is at LA Fitness over on Wesleyan. There's this one guy, looks like a massive lunk. He's like probably 6'4", 6'5". In pretty good shape. Was beaten in the face with an ugly stick. It's just not looking good up there. That said, I remembered that whenever he was at the gym, he would be there with a significant other. So it was like two couples that were going dating on the time. Or I guess it was a couple that were gym partners or some shit. And I always remember thinking to myself, you know what? This seems off. Maybe it was jealousy. But I kind of get the whole tall appeal as someone who's not very tall. I'm like slightly above average in height. I'm 5'11" or so. 5'11 3/4 on a good day. I get why a woman would see another man who's tall and say, yeah. I mean, I think there's like a biological desire to make sure that your kids are going to be tall. I also feel like a taller man, it seems like he would be a lot better at defending you. And there's also the whole, tall people are probably very fun to climb on, if you get my drift. So if Pete Davidson's tall, honestly, he could have been hit in the face with a shovel and have half of his jaw missing and look like Two-Face in the Dark Knight. Doesn't really matter, does it? Just be tall. That's the key to life as a man. Be tall. If you're not tall, you're fucked. Try to marry tall so the next generation's tall. That's all you can really do. Some comments on the twitch.tv/Gallant says, Paulie, you look like a healthier Pete Davidson. I think that's a compliment. I think. Could be wrong. One last thing before we hit the road. I went to the Renaissance Festival on Saturday. It was an interesting time. Way out in the sticks up north of Houston. The worst part is the final stretch before you get there. If you go, take a party bus. Or find other people to go with you so that you have a party bus to go on. Because that was the best part for us, was not having to worry about driving up there and drinking along the way. Never had to pee as bad as I did by the time I got there. But once I got there, your boy, wearing leather armor, a Jon Snow cape, and a medieval helmet, your boy had himself quite the time. I'll say this about the Renaissance Festival. There's not as many people who are into it as I thought there would be. There were a lot of people there who weren't dressed up. I was one of the most dressed up people there with my badass helmet and all that armor, and eventually William Wallace style face paint on the right side of my face, which took me 3 days to get out. I finally, by 3 days, I mean, I spent most of yesterday trying to get it off of my face because it was really on my right eye to the point where it looked like I had eyeliner, looked like I had eyeshadow. But I'll say this about the Renaissance Festival. There are a lot of fun things to do. The drinks are a little bit overpriced. I have no idea how medieval armor protected anybody. I really don't. Or how it helped anybody out. I base this off of putting my helmet on and putting the shield down, trying to knot a bow and arrow, which I'd never done before. It took me 20 seconds per arrow. I would have been getting fucking smoked in 5 seconds. Then I told one of my buddies, who's like 6'3", I want to say like 240 or so. I asked him with the foam sword that I had, like a foam wooden broadsword. I told him, okay, I'm going to put the helmet down. Hit me as hard as you can in the helmet. It's okay. I won't get mad. Just hit me as hard as you fucking can. And he smoked me. And I have like a cut on my lip and a cut on the side of my face where he hit me. Like he hit me hard. He crushed me. And I thought to myself in that moment in time, fuck. So medieval armor makes it difficult for you to knot an arrow and to shoot it. It makes it difficult for you to throw an axe. It makes it difficult. And it doesn't protect your face that much. Like, what was the fucking point? You're just moving around slowly. I mean, at a certain point, you should just say, fuck it, right? Because how much is any of that stuff actually protecting you? It really didn't seem like much. E315 asks, did you go to Henry's hideout? I don't know what that is. Is that like a sexual euphemism? No, I did not. Ian Lindblom on YouTube asks, what's a better name? Poonstank69 or Chode Sniffer 420? I think it's... Damn, that's a tough question. I don't think anyone wants to be known as someone who sniffs a penis that's shorter than it is long. So I think I'm going to go with Poonstank69. E315 says Henry's Hideout is a biker bar near there. No, I didn't go. I did not go to that. Just went to T-Bones later on, watched Texas lose to TCU, and I think I saw the end of the Oregon-Washington game, which was actually a lot of fun. How about those dogs? Dogs actually won. Who would have thought? That's going to wrap up today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Rate, review, tell a friend. We will be back at it tomorrow at 1. And of course, make sure that you've subscribed to the Twitch, twitch.tv/GallantSays or youtube.com/PaulGallant if you want to interact live and ask a question like, what's a better name, Poonstank69 or Chode Sniffer 420? Thank you so much for tuning in. So long, farewell, and have yourselves a wonderful